From the summer of 1942 to the bitter winter of 1943, one of the most brutal and decisive battles in history unfolded on the banks of the Volga River. It was a clash of ideologies, egos, and empires, a turning point that would shape the fate of World War II. This is the story of the Battle of Stalingrad, where steel met blood, where survival meant more than victory, and where the tide of war began to change. By mid-1942, Nazi Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union had pushed deep into Russian territory. Operation Barbarossa, launched in June 1941, had initially seen sweeping German victories. Cities like Kiev, Minsk, and Smolensk fell, and the Wehrmacht appeared unstoppable. But the Soviet Union, vast and resilient, had not collapsed. Instead, the Red Army dug in and began to resist with increasing ferocity. With his forces stalled before Moscow the previous winter, Hitler turned his attention southward in 1942. His new offensive, Case Blue, aimed to seize the oil-rich Caucasus and deliver a fatal economic blow to the Soviet war effort. But one city stood in the way: Stalingrad. Strategically perched on the Volga River, Stalingrad was more than a city. It was a key transport hub and the gateway to the Soviet South. Its capture would disrupt Soviet logistics and provide a springboard for further advances. But for Hitler, it was also personal. Taking the city that bore Stalin's name would be a symbolic victory. In July 1942, the German Sixth Army, under General Friedrich Paulus, and the 4th Panzer Army began their march toward the city. What was intended as a swift campaign would soon turn into a nightmare. Stalin issued Order Number 227, not one step back, setting the tone for the ferocious defense to come. By late August, German aircraft began a relentless bombing campaign. The Luftwaffe rained destruction on Stalingrad, reducing entire neighborhoods to smoking ruins. Civilians fled in panic or took up arms. Those who remained, women, children, and the elderly, often joined in the defense, filling sandbags, tending the wounded, or simply surviving. When the German infantry entered the city, they expected a swift conquest. Instead, they were dragged into a hellish urban battlefield. General Vasily Chuikov, commanding the Soviet 62nd Army, declared, "We shall defend the city or die in the attempt." His forces, a mix of regular troops, militia, and reinforcements, ferried across the Volga under constant fire, prepared for street-by-street combat. Stalingrad became a city of snipers, booby traps, and bloody ambushes. The Red October steel works, the tractor factory, and the barricade plant became fortresses. Soviet soldiers fought from basements, attics, and sewer tunnels. Each block became a front line. The Soviet strategy was simple: stay close to the Germans. This hugging tactic neutralized the advantage of German air and artillery strikes. Fierce duels erupted in stairwells, alleys, and factory floors. Neither side showed mercy. One of the most famous defenders was sniper Vasily Zaitsev, who killed over 200 German soldiers and became a symbol of Soviet resistance. His deadly cat-and-mouse battles with German snipers illustrated the ruthless intimacy of Stalingrad's combat. Soviet propaganda celebrated Zaitsev, boosting morale and inspiring more to join the defense. Amid the carnage, the Volga River ran red with blood, and supply lines to the defenders were tenuous at best. Soviet reinforcements were sent across the river in small boats, often under fire. Many were killed before even reaching the shore. Yet, the line held. As the Germans were sucked deeper into the city, the Soviet High Command, the Stavka, prepared a massive counterblow. Marshals Georgy Zhukov and Alexander Vasilevsky devised Operation Uranus, a pincer movement designed to encircle the German Sixth Army. On November 19, 1942, Soviet forces attacked the Romanian Third Army north of Stalingrad. Ill-equipped and poorly led, the Romanians quickly collapsed. The next day, the Soviet offensive hit the Romanian Fourth Army to the south. Within 72 hours, Soviet troops had met at Kalach, encircling over 250,000 Axis soldiers. The Sixth Army was trapped. Hitler forbade any retreat. He promised the Luftwaffe, under Hermann Göring, would supply the encircled troops. But the promised airlift delivered only a fraction of the daily supplies needed. Cold, hunger, and Soviet artillery began to wear down the encircled soldiers. German attempts to break the encirclement, most notably Operation Winter Storm led by Field Marshal Erich von Manstein, failed to breach the Soviet lines. Paulus was left with dwindling options. The men faced Soviet tanks, starvation, and freezing temperatures. The winter of 1942 to 1943 was brutal. Temperatures plummeted. German soldiers, trapped and cut off, began to starve. Frostbite claimed fingers and toes. Horses were slaughtered for food. Ammunition ran low. Discipline crumbled. Soviet loudspeakers broadcast propaganda and surrender appeals. Some German soldiers began to question the purpose of their suffering. Medical care was almost non-existent. Corpses were piled in makeshift trenches. Cannibalism, while rare, was whispered among the troops. On January 31, 1943, Paulus, promoted to field marshal just days before surrendered the southern pocket of the city. He became the first German field marshal to surrender in combat, defying Hitler's expectations. Hitler had expected Paulus to take his own life rather than be captured. 2 days later, the northern pocket also capitulated. Of the 250,000 men originally trapped, fewer than 100,000 were taken prisoner. Fewer than 6,000 would live to see Germany again. The rest perished from wounds, disease, exposure, or in Soviet captivity. Stalingrad marked a seismic shift in the war. The myth of German invincibility was broken. The Red Army began a steady westward push that would end in Berlin. The human cost was staggering. Conservative estimates suggest more than 2 million casualties, soldiers and civilians alike. The Volga River, once a symbol of commerce and movement, became a graveyard. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to ash. For the Soviet Union, it was a rallying cry. For Nazi Germany, it was the beginning of the end. Hitler never fully recovered from the psychological and strategic blow. The aura of German military supremacy was shattered. In post-war memory, Stalingrad became a monument to resilience and sacrifice. The city was rebuilt, renamed Volgograd, and honored as a hero city of the USSR. Veterans were celebrated, and the battle enshrined in literature, film, and national pride. Memorials like Mamayev Kurgan, crowned by the towering statue the motherland calls, still stand today, commemorating the colossal loss and heroic defense.